Stand up. Z. Bang up.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Legion Mate Podcast, the show where we go over the latest news and information regarding the Cardfight Vanguard franchise. I'm your host, DRAGNOA, and joining me alongside is...
Mira Cardneco. Hi, everybody.
So, today we're going to be going over only a couple things, because last month we didn't have a podcast because, well, time constraints, but also it was a shorter month, even though it was the leap year this year, which means we had an extra day that we normally would, but I figured, you know what, might as well save it for all the reveals once we get more info on, like, product, like, when things are actually being released, which I did want to quickly bring up real quick for those of you who are, like, looking to buy more future products. I personally am good for a good majority of the year, pretty much, so Divine's Booster Set 1 we know is coming out on May 3rd. Technically, for those of you who give a shit about Tokyo Rambu, that's coming out on the 24th of May. And then we don't get our Set 2 until June, like late June 28th, which is really annoying. And then the premium deck sets are coming out on July 12th, and the Festival Booster is also coming out on July 12th as well, the same day, which is a little awkward.
Isn't there something else, August 30th?
And that's Set 3. And then Set 3 is on August 30th. They just recently announced that, so I don't know. I feel like there's been a huge debate that the releases have been kind of like so far spread apart to a point where we're actually falling a lot more behind than we realistically should be. But I don't know.
I mean, I can kind of see that because we don't get... Set 1's already come out in Japan, right?
Yeah, Set 1 already came out in Japan.
So yeah, and we don't get it until May, so we're 3 to 4 months behind now?
Yeah, and also Japan already has the premium battle deck set, but we don't get that until after Set 2.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I don't think that one is something that they need to really keep. Not like with the current product, with all the new stuff coming out. It is reprinted cards at the end of the day with some new stuff added in.
Yeah, so I guess to you it just doesn't really matter as much.
Well, I mean, I'm looking forward to playing Sicilia Premium, don't get me wrong. I've been wanting to play Musketeers, but just didn't have the pieces for it. And
which, how do you feel about the Musketeer set overall, based off what we saw?
I think the Stride got a good update.
Yeah.
A lot of the Musketeer stuff that it came with is a good starting point.
Right.
A lot of the stuff is from V, and I went back and I looked at some of the G era stuff, and Musketeers didn't have a whole lot going for them, so it makes sense. But they needed to reprint the Soul Blast 2 countercharge too, and I'm surprised that they didn't. Yeah,
or even the crit that gets, like the similar effect, I think, but I think the crit is a little, it's a little harder to justify, because really, who realistically wants to run a 5k trigger unless you could send it back to deck?
Yeah, I forget if Musketeer has to be normal units. I would think it's normal units, which is why just the Soul Blasting 2 is the biggest cost of that card, but there's a reason why it's bought out.
Yeah, I mean, people have been buying that out. We bought a full play set from 2 separate vendors. They were almost like 10 bucks a piece when we first bought them.
About that, yeah.
So they were pretty damn expensive for a freaking common from back in the day.
That's because it's old. It didn't get reprinted. It's probably never going to get reprinted until demand and premium allows them to reprint it. So,
which will probably never be the case. And then there was a Great 2 that you said a while back.
One that gives itself and something else resist when it's placed.
Yeah.
I forgot the name of the card, but it's like a 25-cent card.
So at least that one's cheap for those people who are looking to get that.
Yeah, but not a lot of people are considering it.
Which is kind of surprising considering how Shiranui and a lot of control, stuff that has retire or lock, is kind of prevalent in the meta. I'm kind of surprised that people aren't picking that up and just buying it outright. But
yeah, because unlike when you play Excel and you have multiple circles to work with, you only have 2 front row rear guard circles to work with, and you need to make sure that those are protected.
Right.
As well, so I'm kind of surprised people haven't been really looking at that card.
Because then it makes it so that way not even something like a denial graphic could stop it realistically, because it wouldn't, because it gives it and something else resist, right?
Yeah, itself has something else.
Okay, so either way, like, it's pretty useful. I'm just kind of surprised no one's picked it up yet. But as for my reprints for both Revengers and Jewel Knight, I feel like Revengers, for the most part, they nailed it. Obviously, Mana was a big one, because that one was like a $20 card at one point, and it was like from like one of the older sets in Vanguard, similar to that countercharger that we mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm glad that got reprinted. And same thing with Swordbeat. Swordbeat was an old school like promo from like back in the early G era that never got a reprint, despite the fact that over the years it's been able to be splashed into multiple different builds. Like, there was one build back in the day where you used to run Sanctuary Guard Dragon, and you used to be able to spam out a bunch of different grade 1s because of that card's effect. Enough to a point where they had to choice restrict it to make it so that way you could only run that as long as you have like, as long as the entire deck has grade 3 Jewel Knights in it. You couldn't just run Sanctuary Guard at the time.
Oh, okay.
Because it was so spammable.
I thought we were talking about Revengers still.
No, well, Revengers were kind of just like, it was to be expected. The only thing I question is, because even with yours, I question why the reverses weren't just a full 4 of.
Yeah, I kind of see that too. And when I build my Musketeer deck, I do plan to do 4 reverse, because to be able to keep rewriting the Vanguard is a good thing.
Right.
It means more drive checks and more chances to like do damage to your opponent.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was surprised by that too.
It's nice because also Harmonics and Sanctitude are getting reprinted at that, and that pretty much makes up a good majority of the overall value.
Can I just say there's probably going to be people that just buy those sets and then just take out the Sanctitude and the Harmonics and sell just those, and they'll probably make their money back no problem from buying the kit.
I mean, if Triple Drive Booster is anything to go off of, where people are pre-sale, mind you, the new Regalis piece is like $80-something.
Hold up, is that really true?
Yeah, because I was talking with a close friend of ours yesterday about that, and pre-sale, mind you, keep in mind, pre-sale, it was like $83, $84, and that was before tax.
I have to look at this because I can't believe someone would charge that much for a card right away.
But honestly, I'm not surprised because of how much of a mandatory staple that is. Like, it's just ridiculous.
No, I believe it's going to be a good staple.
But yeah, no, I feel overall so far, like from set like 1 and probably leading into set 2, I feel like the overall card quality is pretty good as well. I mean, we're seeing a lot of really good decks come out of that meta, so we're seeing like stuff like Varga and Raziel and even Wellstrand doing surprisingly well.
Okay, he wasn't wrong. It is an $83 card listed at pre-sale.
Yeah, that's fucking insane.
That's so far the most expensive card being the Keter Draw Trigger and the alternate art.
Yeah, which again, I'm not surprised because, you know, people love that shiny cardboard. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, I cannot afford shiny cardboard like that, but...
I'm looking at this Landorn one too, and I'm just like, dang. If only I had the money for that, but I don't.
But yeah. So overall, that's the whole thing with the set releases overall. I want to quickly talk about, because it's been a couple months since the last podcast, but since that time, we've also had the 50 card main deck rule and deciding who goes first and second. And we just participated in a shop tournament today for the first time in what feels like a century. So how did you feel like going into all those games that you played? How much of an impact that actually made?
Well, we've been practicing with the 50 cards for so long before the rule really took effect, so it doesn't feel that different to me. I say it probably helped a lot more decks to have that extra 4 cards in slot than it did hurt them.
Right.
Just because, and I feel like you don't deck out as quickly.
Yeah, no.
With the extra 4 cards in deck, because I feel like a lot of standard games used to go, like, if it went to a certain point, you'd deck out.
Yeah, and especially if you were playing a stride deck, because you were triple driving, like, every turn, you would actually eventually just deck yourself out. So adding those extra cards in actually matters. And not only that, but also the fact that you don't hit OT as much means that it's extra feels bad now if you hit it defensively or offensively, regardless.
Yeah.
But I feel like it was definitely a necessary step in the right direction.
I do think so too.
Because I feel like standard games were going way too quickly at times, especially if, again, if you were triple driving or you were using max decks in general, you were like thinning the deck so much to a point where triggers really did start becoming a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and I feel like overall it was definitely necessary for just the overall game experience, especially now they're also getting the energy generator in April. Now I know in Japan it's already been out for a while, but like for us here in the West, it's like it's gonna be interesting because then decks that normally wouldn't have that little extra card draw now suddenly get that.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it really does, like, I think between both of those things, I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Yeah. I think going first or second, it kind of doesn't really matter too much in V, but at least in the other two formats, I feel like it's very impactful. Like, being able to choose whether or not you go first or second if you win the die roll actually really matters.
I do get that was a quality of life improvement that needed to happen.
Like, I've been playing Vanguard since 2013, and even I gotta admit, I always preferred, like, being able to be given the choice of doing it. That's why I always like best of 3 formats whenever I go to tournaments and whatnot, because then it's like, at least one of those games, you at least are given some sort of, like, choice if you lose.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, and I feel like now it's like, it's kind of similar to that feeling, because now you're actually being given a choice, and I think that actually really matters.
Yeah.
Because, God forbid, you're playing a max deck or a stride deck and you're forced to go first. Then
well,
it's
you're not going to know that it's that until the match starts. So,
but like, if you were playing one of those kind of decks, like if you rolled and you went and you high rolled and you had to go first, and it's like feels bad. But at least now you're at least being given the option. I think that helps.
There are some stride decks that like to go first nowadays.
I think Shiranui technically likes to go first, but that's mostly because if the opponent's dumb enough to give them CB, it's kind of like feels bad, because then they'll just deck them to a point where it's just impossible to stop them. Because think about it, you'll do the Sojojoji grade 2, which will get you the other grade 2, which will then search even further, and then that's on top of Forktail, which will allow you to soul charge and manipulate the deck a bit more. So, like, you get a lot of deck thinning out of that.
A lot of nonsense, got it.
But, yeah, I feel like it just, in general, I think it was a good thing that these rule changes came about when they did. I am curious, though, because now we're going to go into the meat and potatoes of this video, of this podcast.
Meat and potatoes.
There is supposedly going to be a Japanese product streams pretty soon, and in that product stream we are getting a Fighters rule update, which probably means a restriction list of some kind.
No, well, here's the thing, they usually say ban list, not...
Do they say ban list usually? Because I always interpreted Fighters rules as like a restriction list and whatnot.
They usually say like restriction list or something. I feel like Fighters rules, like they're gonna give something to the games that wasn't there before.
Okay. So
I already have opinions on.
All right, so all right, so what are you thinking?
Well, I mean, a ban list is always nice, but again, just the way they said Fighters rules makes me think like something about the formats is going to change. Maybe some clarity on where the energy generator is supposed to be, if it's supposed to be in ride deck or not.
From what I'm seeing on the JP side, it is supposed to be part of the ride deck.
Well, again, that maybe they're making it clearer for everybody else.
Maybe they'll go back on the ruling of where you can actually run dice to actually mark everything now.
Yeah, that was another thing. But here's the kicker that's really going to start a debate.
Okay.
I'm scared of this change, and I really don't want this change to happen, but I can really, really, really see them doing it.
Okay.
They gave V and Premium a ride deck, too.
Oh, God, no. Okay. I can see that.
I knew that was gonna trigger you.
Oh God, that would be hell on earth.
I don't know, just for some reason, just the immediate announcement, and it called quote unquote fighter rules, and I was like, oh boy, it's coming, isn't it?
Oh god. If you know what?
To be clear, I don't want a ride deck. Maybe it won't be so bad in V, but in premium, too much nonsense goes off.
Yeah.
If you let people ride what they want.
Yeah, that's. I don't know how I'd feel about a ride deck, especially in premium, because there's a lot of bullshit in that format. Like, think about it like this now. Any deck that has a legal superior ride will most likely run it. Because they could sit there and just... They'll always ride the certain grade 2, but then it's a matter of if they get that grade 1. Like, Gold Powdered, for example. Both V and Premium now, I feel like, if you somehow manage to see the Wonder Ezel and Hoel combo, you're eating good at that point. You can do superior ride into Ezel and not give a shit. If that's what you really wanted to commit to. But I think... I don't know. There would have to be a huge list of choice restrictions at that point, and I think it's a little too messy. Like, I know in the Italian format, they're in like toward the tail end of G or in the middle of G, and they already have the ride deck. So I could kind of see that. I see where you're coming from, but I'm thinking this is more of a restriction list, personally.
I just don't know. I just don't think they call it fighters rules. If it was just a ban list, they would just be like, we have a restriction list coming up soon.
So you think it's definitely going to be
I'll hold up, pump the brakes there.
Okay.
I didn't say it was definitely going to be. I just have that strange sinking suspicion that yes, that's the big change that's going to happen, and it's gonna. So many people are gonna be very upset in premium. In V, I don't know if it would be as busted, but if you allow a ride deck in premium...
I mean, even in V, because think about it like this. Decks like Shadow Paladin that, again, have a superior ride that they can technically go into, now you're just adding fuel to the fire. Because think about it. I've been testing out something in Shadow Paladin, but essentially you could do, like, Blaster Dark into Bendy, into superior ride, into PBD. Like, they would have to hit those kind of, like, those superior ride shenanigans, because otherwise it's like, ugh, feels bad.
Mm-hmm. But, I mean, time will only tell. It's, what, a few days away from now?
Technically, by the time I try to get this out, it should probably be, like, maybe a day out. But I think if we're going to talk about specifically a ban list, I think there's, like, I think I have a general consensus of what should realistically be hit in all three formats. And normally I wouldn't talk about V, but I think given what happened at Worlds, I think we could have an actual proper discussion on a potential V ban list as well. So I'm curious about your takes, if you have any at this point, before I go into my old debacle.
Well, I mean, you said the only problem decks are golds and 7Cs, Night Rose with treasure markers.
No, okay, no, treasure markers is the 7Cs thing.
I keep thinking Night Rose is tied to treasure markers for some reason. I have no idea why.
It's because I fought a treasure player at one point, and that's where you're gonna get mixed up from. But so, I think for V it's specific. They need to choice restrict Ezel and Gurgit, because the idea that they can do superior ride and get it off consistently is kind of ridiculous, especially when they have Excel 2 in the mix.
How many restrictions has Gurgit had at this point?
One too many. First with Percival, then it came off the ban list and then it came back on, and then potentially that now with the Ezel superior ride shenanigans.
Well, isn't also Percival and Aglavale also
No,
restricted?
I think Percival is technically banned in V, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, and Aglavale
Is that's still legal as far as I'm concerned.
I thought it was reduced to 1 of it.
Oh, maybe it was reduced to 1.
I forgot. It's been a while.
Yeah, same. But like,
For our team tournament, I'm not playing. I'm playing premium and standard, so I haven't been keeping up with the V rules in quite a while.
Yeah, I'm the unfortunate sad sack who has to play V again. Even though I really didn't want to, but I'm cooking some spice, so I don't feel too bad.
You're the only one between the three of us that has like a V deck that actually has a chance of doing well.
I mean, you're not wrong, but also, like, we just got our grade 2 Ride Fixer promo, so, like, that actually makes a world of difference in the build.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the other, again, like I said, Gold needs to get hit, and then possibly Granblue. And the reason why I'm saying Grand Blue is because Night Rose, when you combine it with Beatrix and Skull Dragon, after a certain point, it becomes really hard to stop, especially when they're guaranteeing, like, multi-attacking out the wazoo.
Listen, this is my strategy with dealing with Skull Dragon. How much damage am I at? Okay, I'm not at 5. How many crit is it swinging for? Okay, just 1. You let the Wookiee win.
Okay,
and you just take the hit.
Fair enough.
That's how you deal with Skull Dragon.
No, but like I think that some sort of restriction between the 3 would have to happen. Now for V, I don't know how likely that will be, but I feel like at least for the Ezel Superior Ride, like the choice restricting, I think that's pretty reasonable and that's pretty fair to hit that. Because think about it like this too, because I've seen multiple different lists run it. Some run it with Raven Hair on top of that to get a second Excel marker.
Oh gosh, yeah.
And then they could just high roll like super hard from that. And then there are some builds that just run the Ezel just to get the Superior Ride and then go into Gurgen on the following turn.
Oh, also the thing is that another reason why I think that it's not a ban list per se.
Okay.
Is because they said the rules go into effect April 1st. Think about like
Did they actually? Oh, that's right. They did say it was going into effect April 1st. Forgot about that.
It's not something where it's just like it'll translate in Japan first and then kind of translate into the American card game. It's just no, this is affecting everybody at this time. So that's why I think did the English side of Bushy announce that or no? I don't know. I just saw it as a post one day.
Okay, well, I guess at some point we'll get confirmation on that.
Sorry to go into a different tangent, but I just realized, oh right, that's why I was also thinking.
No, you know what? I would have paid attention to that detail, so good on you for catching that. But I think for standard, now that I can move away from the V talk, because I think those are the 2 main things that would probably have to get hit. I think for Shiranui needs to get hit, because even in Japan after set 1, Shiranui is still topping like crazy. Like every team and their mother is running it. Every person is like sitting there and they're actually running Shiranui, even with the Regalis piece.
Wait, don't you mean Shiranui?
Oh god, that bad pronunciation on the actual commercial for the English side. Like,
that's how Bushiroad officially pronounces it. You've been pronouncing it
I think that was just a voice actor fucking up, personally.
I've
always said it as Shiranui.
They wouldn't let the voice actor do that a whole bunch of times. They would correct him and make him say it the right way. It's their product, dang it.
Okay, but this is also Bushiroad. I don't think they really care or pay attention to details like that. You know what I mean?
We say as we're discussing a fighter's rule that they're about to update in a couple days.
Okay, fair enough. Alright, so I think for standard, Shiranui needs to get hit. And I think there are 2 ways to go about this. And I think both of them should realistically be put in. But if you had to pick one or the other, one of them would have to be you hit the Suzudoji grade 2 in the ride line to prevent it from being used in the ride line. Because that creates a lot of advantage just off its own effect. Because not only are you fueling your soul, but you're also getting an extra card on field for basically free. Which is really stupid.
Yes, I mean, I've seen it do multiple different things that allowed it to call out different things and search out different things. I get it. But then that would require them to change the rules because remember for Stride deck sets, they said you have to have the same grade 0, 1, and 3.
Right.
So you would basically tell people you can't do a different grade 2.
I mean, I think it would just be for that one because I think it's just a little too bullshit. Like if you give them CB, they're able to like deck thin like crazy, like I previously stated before. So I think for that reason, the Soju Doji grade 2 and Suspific would have to be choice restricted. And then if you're not gonna go down that rabbit hole, I think the other option is to hit Verena Esperidia. Because the thing about Verena Esperidia is like if you use the Regalis piece, if your opponent uses the Regalis piece, right? Let's say you're playing as Shiranui, and they use the Regalis piece. Okay, you can't dominate anything during your turn, meaning that you have to hard draw into the Verena Esperidia. But the fact you even have that option to restand is absolutely crazy. Especially when you have such a broken mechanic such as Dominate thrown into the mix. Like, there's a reason why the Regardless piece is like $80-something on pre-sale. It's because Shiranui is going to run rampant, and it's already starting to run rampant on the Springfest side, and it's just no. So I think, regardless of which way you go about it, I think you would have to hit them like that, because otherwise otherwise Shiranui is just going to take over completely, and it's going to bleed into set 1.
Shiranui.
God dang it. You're never going to let this go, are you?
It's just funny because that's how you've been pronouncing Shiranui this whole time.
Yeah.
And then like I hear that commercial and they're going Shiranui, and I'm like, has old Noah been wrong this whole time?
I guess, but like, I don't know. Like, to me, it's just, I feel like that's the way how you would go about it. Every other deck, at least from what I can tell, I think is somewhat balanced and fair. Like, I think maybe, I don't think anything is really all that bad outside of Shiranui. I think Shiranui is just the gatekeeper.
Lord, it's really...
Okay, so what would you hit in Luard if you had it your way?
I really don't know realistically what you can do to hit it.
Because I think the only thing you could realistically do is hit Painkiller, Choice Restricted alongside Luard, so that way they don't have draw.
I mean, maybe, but I don't think that's really gonna put a dent in Luard. I think at the end of the day, they have other resources to maybe... No, that would be too mean. Maybe
what?
Doing like 2 copies of what's her name at a time.
Of Morfessa?
No, the other one. The one that you place it down and you look at the top 2 cards.
Oh, Simius? No,
Yeah.
but they're not going to do that because that's in the actual like deck set itself. So then that would be a little awkward in its own right. Plus, you only really need, like, realistically, you can get away with 2. I see lists that only run it as a one-off. So, like, you could technically make the argument for that, sure, but, like, now I see a lot of lists going with, like, a more order-focused build, and I'm not sure how to feel about that. But I think, regardless, I think maybe you could slightly tap Luard by hitting Painkiller, but, like, outside of that, I think Luard is nowhere near as bad. Like, Drag Strider is still annoying to deal with, sure. Guard Restrict is such a bitch to a point where if you don't have Sanctitude, you're kind of
it's
shit out
just
of
funny
luck.
that you're playing one of the best decks in the format.
But here's the thing. Unlike Shiranui players, I can at least admit when something is broken. Okay? Shiranui players have it fucking easy. We have to wait until essentially GB3 to activate our multi-attacking bullshit. Like, how unfair is that?
Not GB3.
Yeah, because Morfessa's effect requires you to have 2 face-up cards in G-Zone.
Yeah, because Professor would be fucking stupid if you were allowed to do it right
but
away.
But Shiranui has it all! They get it off regardless. They get 7 attacks on turn 3 regardless of what you do, unless you have that Regardless piece. That's how dumb Shiranui is. That's why I'm saying for Shiranui they need to hit it the way that I said.
I triggered him, I guess.
Yes, you did. You dug the rabbit hole for yourself at this point because you knew just saying that was going to trigger me. You knew that for a fact.
No, I didn't know that for a fact.
Okay, whatever. But then for Premium, which I think Premium is its own can of worms. I think... Okay, let me think about this for a minute. I think, so specifically for Premium, I think there are 2 decks that really come to my mind that... Actually, 3 decks that come to my mind. 2 of which I actually play and I actually don't want them to hit, but at the same time, I can kind of see why it's unfair. So the first deck I think that needs to get hit is Greydora. Get rid of that shit.
You've been talking about Greydora for years.
Yes, because no one likes dealing with a Floodgate, unless you're that one person who likes playing a Floodgate deck, you know? Like, I think it's very degenerate. I think it's very... It's one of those decks that, yes, it may not be doing so great in the meta, but it's still a problem that people have been asking for it to get rid of it for a while now.
So what you're saying is the same argument that most people are making about Chaos, and yet you're not.
Oh no! I'm
Chaos
about to get there in a minute. I'm not gonna sugarcoat that. Chaos is another deck that needs to get hit. I think you have to choice restrict V Chaos with Destiny Guardian or Planetary Minerals. Or if not, just both. So that way Chaos Breaker doesn't have that mid-battle disruption. Because Chaos is kind of a problem in the format, especially in the advent of these new Stride decks that are coming out. Because then they can just sit there and deny them that. And it's just like, well, fuck you. You don't get to play the game.
Well, that's why the Stride decks have to go first in those instances.
Yeah, but that's the problem. If they don't go first and the Chaos player gives them a force marker, then, well, they're shit out of luck. You know?
Yeah, I mean, but that's...
Because the other thing I thought of, too, is if you do that, they lose their ability to get the crest.
Yeah, also.
So that's
exactly
like, really dumb. So I think... For Chaos, you would also have to hit it like that, where you hit the Destiny Guardian and the Planetary Minerals to just prevent them from having that mid-battle disruption. It also limits their card draw and probably will kill the deck outright, but honestly, considering how long it's been out for, I think even maybe a 1-up would be enough. But then the last deck is Grand Blue. And I think for Grand Blue, you would have to somehow like find a certain perfect balance between all of the V support, between Skull Dragon, Beatrix, the new promo, and Bartholomew. Because Bartholomew, if they get to it, it's practically OT or bust at that point. Because it's 3 or more guard restrict for every single attack.
Yeah, but your opponent needs to have 30 cards in the drop zone.
Which for Grand Blue is not difficult.
Yeah, but they're not getting it on their first Stride turn.
No, unless they go and do a full turbo build, which people have been known to do. So I think for that reason, you can make the argument that people should hit it like that. And then there are a few honorable mentions I'm going to mention now before wrapping up this podcast. Hope on Damp, get rid of that because that kind of guard restrict is just evil. It's the Dark Irregulars grade 3 that makes you guard in 20k intervals. I think that card needs to go, especially in modern MLK, and especially with the new Divine card coming out in set 2.
Oh yeah, that one.
So I think you would have to hit that at some point. Maybe if not this ban list, then definitely the next one. Mm-hmm. Because NLK is just going to run amok at that point.
Yeah.
Especially since their grade 2 promo makes the build way more consistent. Because they can directly search for stuff that allows them to manually soul charge at will. And they can get to 13 cards in soul very easily because of that. So I think for that reason, you probably just have to hit Hope on Damp and just get rid of that outright. And I forget if there was another card. I'm not 100% sure if there was something else, but I think overall Premium is not in a terrible spot in comparison to what it was before.
Yeah. Also, how will they figure out another way to neuter Narukami?
I mean, the sad part is Narukami loses to Chaos just outright because they actively rely on their on-hit Stride.
No, I know, I understand that, but it's just like because Narukami.
Oh shit! Right, that reminds me, Nubatama. Fuck Nubatama. Get rid of Mizukaze, please. Enough with this bullshit. Stop stalling, Bushy. Get rid of Mizukaze. We all hate the card. And I think, especially now with the crest, I don't think Nubatama players have anything to worry about at this point. Because that kind of unfair guard restrict at the top of Shiranui Rene, it's like absolutely stupid. Mm-hmm. Like, I think, honestly, and I've been clamoring for this for years, but I think now is the time to get rid of it.
Now is today. Now is the time.
And you know the sad part is, I guarantee you they're not going to do anything about it. I think they're just going to leave it as is because Premium is not as common in Japan as it is here in the West. Mm-hmm. So for them, it's like maybe they'll do it for our ban list, but definitely not for the JP ban list.
Until there's no ban list at all in a couple days, and it's just an actual Fighters Rule update.
You know what? If that's actually what it turns out to be, I will tip my imaginary hat toward you because I honestly, now thinking about it, I can see that.
Yeah, but it's okay. It's fun to speculate anyway.
Yeah, definitely. But what do you think about all of the latest news and information that we've gone over? Are you excited for Springfest? If you've already competed, have you enjoyed it so far with Tri-Regulation? Ours doesn't come until May, so we're going to be waiting a bit. But when that time comes, whenever that podcast will be, we'll definitely go over our takes with that.
It'll be near the end of May, but yeah.
Yeah, but if not, it'll probably be on the June podcast as well, because it depends on how that lines up. But yeah, do you have any more closing thoughts, or are we good from here?
No, just looking forward to see what's coming next. That's all.
Alrighty. But yeah, that's going to do it for this podcast. Let us know in the comment section what you take on all of this, what you think of all this, all that good stuff. And until next time, this is Noah.
And Mirror Garden Echo.
And we'll catch you guys later. Bye, everyone.
Bye.